Doing Monday edition of Beyond the Arc. I'm John Gonzalez alongside our NBA insider, Bill Reiter, are you in a broom closet? Where are you right now?
I'm in a closet. I'm in New York City. The studio that I thought reserved, someone else took it. So I was running around and I've been taken hostage by the Clippers.
I want you to hold up a proof of life newspaper, but otherwise I think you're okay. Bill, right before we started recording, Shams had a report here that Kristaps Porzingis is set to make his season debut tonight against the Clippers, just 5 months after foot surgery, well ahead of schedule.
Yeah, that's what that team needs, just to get even stronger and even better. Great news for the rest of the Milquetoast Eastern Conference.
Yeah, the rich get richer there. Although I am excited for that Clippers-Celtics game because the Clippers, who I saw in person, we're going to talk about in just a second, are good, Bill. Like out of nowhere, they just keep functional, professional.
They're not bad.
We'll do that. They're a professional basketball team. We'll talk about that in a second. Later in the show, we're going to talk about your Spurs, Bill's Spurs. Bill was an early adopter on the Spurs. Here they come. They're very interesting. We'll get into that. We'll do a little weekend radar and we'll do team of the night. But Bill, first, I have to tell you about going to the Intuit Dome. And
oh my God, are you going to become a Clippers fan too? You can't root for everybody.
I might have to abandon the Philadelphia basketball team for a lot of reasons, up to and including maybe the Clippers experience is enjoyable. I went to the Intuit Dome. You've been there as a reporter. We were talking about how sort of like as a reporter, the experience is different than as a fan. I didn't realize how crazy Ballmer went on that place. So can I just take you through this? Like,
hit me.
Everything is like, all right. So you have to get the app for the Intuit Dome and you have to like set up your profile and it has facial recognition and you attach a credit card to your profile. And then you just stick your phone in your pocket and you forget about it. You walk in, it's facial recognition. You go to the team store. There's
your ticket is your face.
Your ticket is your face. Okay.
So if I take my son Henry, I give him his own account because he wants to go.
I think with kids, it's like a guardian situation. But with adults, everybody, like my buddy came with me. He had to get his own app. He had to go through the profile process. He had his facial recognition thing. There's a greeter and there's like a person with an iPad just watching the faces come through. And on the iPad is all of the faces that pop up and it's like green until like somebody, I guess, tries to sneak in and it goes red and they pull them out of line. But Bill, that part, I was like, okay, that part's cool. You go to the team store. And there's a greeter and they let you in facial recognition wise. And you go around and like, you're picking up stuff, checking stuff out, whatever. And I grab a Clippers hat. Here's the Clippers hat that I got. It's a new city edition hat. Pretty cool hat, right? Of course I did. Cool. So I grabbed the hat and I go to check out and I'm like, where do I check out? And they're like, you don't check out, you just leave. And I was like, I'm sorry. You just pick stuff up out of here.
It's like that SNL skit. Have you seen that SNL skit?
Yes.
Yeah.
No. I just walked out and the second I left the store, you get a push notification. You've been charged X amount of dollars for this hat you just brought. And then same thing with beer, with popcorn, you just pick it up and go. And then like, it just like pops up on your phone that you're charged X amount of dollars. It's wild.
It's very Big Brother. Big Brother Ballmer is just watching.
Like they are all it's like kind of like the Ocean's 11 where Terry Benedict says there's always somebody watching in my casino. There's always somebody watching in the Intuit Dome. And then the in-game experience, like they've got like, you saw all this with the scoreboard is insane.
The scoreboard's incredible.
They have 5 live camera angles on every replay. It's better than watching it. It's better than what they have at the NBA office.
It is. I mean, I don't want to get too carried away and I haven't been everywhere. It's the best arena I've probably ever been to. Yeah. And the food, how was the food? I think I told you the media food. So you're right. I experienced this from the other side of the looking glass. Every part of my experience, now that I've figured out where to walk, is the easiest experience in the NBA when I go. I don't go to Lakers games like I used to, or I should, because I'm just going to Clippers games all the time now.
That building's amazing. They have this game, I'm sure that you saw people playing, and it's called The Mentalist. So it's part of the pregame experience is fireworks and a laser light show, and there's a fog machine, and like it's wild. But in every seat, there's an LED display that becomes part of the in-game experience. Well, they'll like light up different colors or stuff. But during a halftime or during a timeout, they play this game called The Mentalist. So there's 4 buttons. It's like blue, red, yellow, and green or whatever. And you have to predict what the next color is going to be. So it starts with like the whole arena. It's like 18,000 people. And then like, if you don't get the color right, it cuts it down. Now you're at like 12,000. Then the next color, you're down to like 3,000. And then on the winner, it's whoever picks the next color fastest. So you can see who's still in the game live by whose color on their seat is popped up. And then the last person standing wins like a prize pack or whatever. It was an amazing experience.
You've been won over. You've been converted. So here's my dilemma. And now you'll understand this. My son Henry wants to go to a bunch of games.
Take him.
Well, if I take him to a Clippers game, which is really close to my house, I think we've talked about it, so close to where we live.
Yeah.
He's going to be a Clippers fan for life. If I take him to Lakers games, he'll be a Laker. So I think I have to skip the Intuit Dome until he becomes an actual Lakers fan, don't I?
Or take him to when the Lakers play over there.
Okay. Or maybe like the Warriors or somebody and buy him a Steph Curry jersey or something. That's a good
exactly. Because they've got that basketball court outside, which you were telling me about.
Awesome.
I shot around. Let me just tell you, crushed my first 3 from deep, went 3 for 4 from the field. Inglewood is still talking about it.
Let's go.
That place is great. I will say, you did tell me that the bathroom situation is not as great as Ballmer had predicted. I got up. I was like, this is going to be great. I'm going to go to the bathroom at halftime, and it's going to be easy peasy. There was a line. It's like in every arena.
It's just restrooms. It was a lie.
It was a lie. They lied to us about it.
It was a lie. And you or somebody on radio, I don't remember, challenged me to really experience the restroom and all of its potential. And so I was locked and loaded. And it was a problem. It's like I planned my day around this. Yeah.
It was that was the one knock against it. But other than that, wow, I was just blown away. It's everything that Ballmer didn't pull off at Microsoft.
Let me ask you this let me ask you this by way of like what it could mean. Do you think that it's impressive enough and it feels big enough and it's obviously separate from the Lakers enough that in 5, 6, 7 years it's a destination organization for actual free agents and players? Because it is in LA. Ballmer has a bunch of money. He can't spend more money than he otherwise could on the cap, but all the extras, right? How you travel, what you eat, what the experience is like, spend to your heart's content. When I go there, John, I sort of think maybe this will actually work in terms of people wanting to play for the Clippers that really matter 5, 6, 7 years from now or sooner.
Yeah, it's attractive. I mean, I've seen opposing players say that it's the best locker room, the best opposing locker room that they've ever been in by a lot. It kind of reminds me of back when I was in Dallas when Cuban first took over the team. He used to put PlayStations in the opposing locker rooms and like nice robes and all this stuff. And people would say, well, why are you doing that? Like the general philosophy for opposing teams is you want to make them as not comfortable, as uncomfortable as you possibly can. He goes, I want them to know how good we have it here. Maybe one day they'll want to join us just in case, you know? So yeah, Ballmer full marks on that place. All right. So the Spurs, you were a person who said early coming into the season that you thought that the Spurs could take the leap. And I thought it's going to be like a minor step. They might have taken a full step here, Bill. They were down 17 against the Warriors, who, as we know, leading the Western Conference, have been really good all season. Down 17. They ended up winning that game. They also rallied from down 20 against the Jazz. Now, all of a sudden, Bill, they're 9-8. They've won 3 in a row, 5 of their last 7. You called this. They're on a 43-win pace. I am floored by this.
It's amazing. I wish I could gamble on this stuff because I would have bet the over. I don't remember what it was low. Was it 26? Anyway, yes. Look, this isn't rocket science for me. I thought Wembanyama would be amazing. I thought Castle in particular, some of the guys they brought in were gonna be pretty good. I don't think there's not a lot of pressure there, so it feels like sort of house money. And as much as I joke about my personal interactions with Chris Paul being unpleasant, he is a really impressive player in terms of whenever he goes somewhere, including like way back in the day with the Thunder, when there's not expectations, he meets those expectations and exceeds those expectations. Yeah. So it just felt like what Chris Paul's about. Plus Wembanyama. And by the way, you and I both thought Wembanyama was going to be amazing, the top 10 player this year. Sure. I mean, and you throw in the fact, I know Popovich we have health issues, but Popovich is the head coach, being someone who's one of the best head coaches we've ever seen. I thought they would be good. I did not think that they would win games against teams like the Warriors, and I didn't think they'd be this interesting this quickly. I thought maybe they'd be more lingering in a 37, 38, 36-win pace, and like the Rockets, maybe come on a little bit late, right? Figure it out. The young guys kind of get in the groove. Wembanyama, I think he's going to take leaps every 6 or 7 weeks or whatever it's going to be. They're even ahead of schedule for me, who I guess was fairly bullish on him.
Defensively, they've been incredible. Yeah. Well, so their total coming into the season was 33.5. And as I mentioned, they're on pace to outperform that by 10 games, which would be just absolutely insane. Defensively, Wemby has been ridiculous. I saw a stat earlier today, and apologies to whoever dug this up. I think it was The Athletic, but regardless, it was Wemby has more blocks than Anthony Davis and Draymond combined. And I was like, what? That's
that is a great stat.
Bill, they're, I believe, they're top 10 in defense. Let me just check this. I think
they were entering the week. Yeah, over the week.
They're eighth. They're eighth. So defensively, they've really been. I mean, now you get some professional veteran competence, as you mentioned, with Harrison Barnes and Chris Paul, and you add that to Stephon Castle. So it doesn't always pop up in the box score with Stephon.
He looks good though.
He looks good. He kind of reminds me a little bit like in the. Doesn't always pop up in the box score, but makes all the right plays, plays at both ends. He's a like kind of a glue guy, connective tissue guy who can do a lot of things, kind of like a little Drew Holiday-ish, like a little dusting there. That's high praise. I'm not saying that he's going to be a multi-time Olympian and all-star. I am saying though that like
it's a good comp.
See how useful this kid could be.
And it's not like he's shooting the lights out. I mean, there is still room for improvement for him. And
no, he's not. Right. Yeah.
He is. I love the Drew Holiday comp because he's so young that this is going to come out the wrong way, but he sort of strikes you as a guy that is just a winner and a culture guy and does the little things, is really athletic. And I'm with you. You can see the framework if they add somebody, like one more piece for this getting to where I think we all presume that they're always going to get because they have Wembanyama, and that's being a real contender. And I know that one of the things producer Aaron's brought up, and it's reasonable, is this is you have another bite at the old lottery apple this year. And there's always this question of whether you should win or lose. Look, I would if I'm the Spurs, you're not going to win an NBA championship this year. I can see the benefit of maybe being a 17-win team and drafting as high as you can, but I think you just win because you just want to create a winning culture. Just win.
Right now, they're the last team in the play-in. They're the 10 seed at 9-8. Right behind them, and I've got the Wolves on my weekend radar list for later on that we need to discuss. Right behind them is the Wolves. Like the Wolves would love to be. Obviously, they're not like trying to get another bite of any apple. They want to get up there. Like, right there, they were functionally tied for the best record in the Western Conference last year with the Nuggets and Oklahoma City, and they're looking at the outside of the play-in, looking in. And like, if you're the Spurs, this is all house money right now. I mean, I think that there's a real benefit having seen, gone through the really dark days of the process back in the day where it was, we'll win eventually. Let's just like bottom out as bad as we can in order to get some of these players, and that did end up working. In terms of draft positioning, but I just thought like in retrospect, there's something valuable to learning how to win and showing these guys like this is 100%. Spurs culture has always been that, right? It's always been, hey, this is an organization that does things the right way, and we're going to try to compete. And like if we get Wemby or we get Tim Duncan or we get the Admiral, like that's great, but this is an organization that also prides itself like a guy like Champagnie, who is just kind of like they just hit on him. Like they've always been so good at developing players that you didn't anticipate were going to be quality.
So one of the things I have to write this week, because they actually heard it on the podcast and they asked me to write about it. So now that I love it, podcast creating is sort of the whatever comps or lessons there are from LeBron's career to Wembanyama's now. And this sort of started as I think I was talking to Brad about. Brad was frustrated with Wemby shooting, but it was very similar to LeBron's. Wemby shooting to start this year, smaller sample size, was very similar to LeBron's shooting in LeBron's rookie year. But another comp is the Cavs never went out and tried to tank for 2 or 3 years so they could surround LeBron with talent because LeBron was the talent. And I believe, and Aaron, if you can look this up, I'm doing this off the top of my head, I think in LeBron's second year, I think Cleveland won like 42 games. I think they were like a surprisingly great team because LeBron is LeBron James, right? And he obviously wasn't paired yet with the Dwayne Wades and the Chris Bosches and then the Kyrie Irvings and the Anthony Davises and the Kevin Loves. But there is for Wembanyama, I think, a similar pattern where, to your point, you learn to win. Wembanyama is the answer. There's already something in San Antonio you never had in Cleveland. That is a remarkable culture of excellence in winning and coaching that you talked about that goes with what Wembanyama brings from a natural talent perspective. And so there's a LeBron lesson here too, which is some players, and they're not many, but so I was right, 42 and 40 second season. So there are some players who are so gifted and so talented that their ability to learn to win and be the best version of themselves is the answer beyond the next draft pick or beyond let's try to hope these picks are protected, or you lean into their talent and that will happen. They will take you where you have to go. The players around them will grow at ways maybe they wouldn't. They'll lift up players as they get older. Maybe certain guys, maybe not stars, to Cleveland or San Antonio will arrive or stay. So I'm here for win with Wembanyama. He's a generational talent, and any sort of idea of losing, you put out the window. If you can chase 10, you chase 10. If you can chase 7, you chase 7. If you can chase 5, whatever you can do in terms of where you rank in the Western Conference, go for it.
Yeah, and you know, with a guy like him, we've already seen like his competitive drive. I don't think telling him, hey, maybe let's try to get into the lottery one more time is going to go over very well, especially when they're in the play-in right now. If you're Wemby and you're clearly a generational talent, you want to show people sooner than later that like, hey, I'm going to get us into the postseason and we're going to compete. And like, that's what my whole thing is about. And that's what this whole organization is about.
What were his comments? I've been traveling and I'm in a hostage closet. What were his comments earlier in the year where he basically said, I thought all these guys in the NBA were going to be amazing, but some of them don't. Don't work that hard? Was that the general?
It was, you're paraphrasing it correctly. Basically it was, I thought everybody was going to be, I'm paraphrasing now. Everybody was going to be leaps and bounds ahead of me. And then I realized, no, like he gets
that's
it.
A message.
He's already gotten it.
Like I have standards. I'm already beyond a bunch of these guys. I'm not in awe. I can do it. So it's a message. Let's go. Let's go do it now. I love it. By the way, can I also say they're fun? Like I love because Wembanyama is so gifted that to watch him now and watch them win some games, it is among the teams I like watching the most in the NBA right now.
And I love what they're doing now, especially with them giving the green light to Wemby to just figure stuff out. I realize why Brad was so frustrated with Wemby early in the season because he's taking so many threes, and his offensive stats are kind of flat year over year. His defensive stats have even taken another step forward, but like, you know, he's figuring stuff out on what his game can do. And Wemby's whole thing, like I realize that a lot of people go, and Brad included, he's 7'4". Why wouldn't you want to get to the rim more? But Wemby's whole thing has been, I am 7'4". My advantage doesn't just stop in the paint in the restricted area. It extends to the 3-point line because nobody can stop me out there either because I'm so long. And if I get that shot to fall regularly, now that combo game is going to be nigh unguardable if it isn't already. So I love it. I love that they're just letting him go. And this team, like you said, is super fun. All right, quick break. And then on the other side, we're going to get into, there was so much action this weekend. So we're going to do a little weekend radar as we tend to do on Mondays. You're watching Beyond the Arc.
Historic rivals with unforgettable seasons meet in a game of honor. The Army-Navy game presented by USAA, December 14th on CBS.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. You can find us wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Please download, subscribe, and leave a review. And if you're listening on Spotify, if you look below the play button on the Spotify app in full screen mode, you can tell us what you think about the show or leave us a question. All right, weekend radar, Bill. So many things that we could get into here. I got like 50 different things that I want to hit. I don't think we're going to have time, but you go first.
I got 5 or 6. All right, so I'm going to go a little off the beaten path, or maybe it is Fred VanVleet almost poking an official in the eye.
Yeah.
What are you? And he is a classy guy and a nice piece. Yeah, great. Important piece of that Houston team that, look, I think are pretty good. They're pretty good. It was just and I know people, and I have a one on Portland too, but I know people don't like losing to Portland. But, and if you saw it, like he gets ejected. He takes a bad shot. He doesn't get the foul call. Portland goes down and scores. It's basically a wrap on the game. And he gets ejected for mouthing off to the official. And he goes to point at him, and from one angle, it looks like he poked him in the eye. Now, if you look at the other, he didn't, but the official had to move his head, right? It's kind of dodge out of the way. Like, Fred, what are you doing, dude? Don't almost touch the official, bro.
Don't almost touch the official. Definitely don't almost blind him.
Right.
I saw the same thing, and I was like, that's unusual. It's super out of character for Fred, like you said, because he is like just one of the chillest, nicest dudes to talk to ever. So my first reaction was, oh no, don't do that. And I wonder if a suspension is coming. My second was, what happened to get him to react like that? Because it was super out of character. So do you think that there's going to be, I mean, we haven't heard anything about a suspension yet.
Yeah, I was texting some people in the league office, and I got the great big, we're not telling you, which is always fun. Sure. I don't know. Doesn't it feel like not a suspension, hefty fine, private warning kind of a thing? Because he didn't touch him?
He didn't touch him. So I thought it was going to be a suspension because it looked like he jabbed him. But also, if there was going to be one, it probably would have come down by now, no?
Yeah. Yeah.
He maybe dodges a bullet there. All right, I'll give you one. We got to talk about LaMelo Ball, third youngest ever to go for 50 and 10 assists. That same game, Brandon Miller went for 32, 11 rebounds. He had 6 threes. Those two together are very fun. Producer Aaron and I were talking about this while you were looking for your broom closet to record in. Are the Hornets have been at times interesting to watch. There's been some games where all of a sudden you're like, maybe I could start to see it. They lost that game to the Bucks. The Bucks, by the way, have almost completely dug themselves.
I've got them. It's coming.
Okay, good. I won't get into that just yet. But Aaron and I were talking about this, so I'll present you with the same question that we were discussing. Are the Hornets ever going to figure it out? Like, because it's kind of the same stuff, right? Like LaMelo goes off and Brandon Miller looks really good, and they make it like they're playing a tight game and then they lose.
So I think LaMelo Ball is a generational talent. I think he's an impeccable talent and always has been. And so the question is, can he stay healthy? I mean, it's really cool.
Does it translate to wins?
Are you saying from a playing perspective or a knucklehead perspective?
I mean, they're 6 and 10. Like they're in the Eastern Conference, so I guess you're never really out of it. You're only they're right there with the Bulls and the Pistons on the back end of the play-in, so they could potentially make the play-in this season. But you want to see those two main guys like actually make them competitive.
Yeah, that's the takeaway for me. I don't think they're a very good basketball team, but I think if LaMelo is a guy that you believe going forward can play 65 or more games per year, he and Brandon Miller are a duo that you can make the playoffs with, right? I think that is that they are both out. Yes. I mean, are they good now? No, they're really inconsistent. And even when they have individual performances that are outstanding, they still lose some games. But I do think that they have two guys that are good enough and young enough to build around. I'm not sure LaMelo Ball and Brandon Miller are LeBron James and Anthony Davis, but I think you can be, a 5, 6, 7, 8 in the years ahead if you put the right pieces around it.
Yeah,
I love LaMelo's game.
I do too. I like LaMelo's game. I like Brandon Miller's game. I just wonder about their depth. They just lost some of that, by the way. Grant Williams out for the year. Yeah. We mentioned the Bucks.
Oh yeah, which is a brutal
loss for them. Give me your Bucks radar.
On my radar. Okay, so they're almost 500. Which, by the way, what are they? 8-9. 8-9 might as well be 15-2 compared to how they started, how it has to feel, and they've won 4 in a row. So you and I talked about, and I wrote about for CBSSports.com that as bad as their start was, and as much as the story that I wrote pissed them off and pissed off all these Bucks fans, that when you looked at the schedule, there were 10 or 11 games that were there was a chance to get right. And they've done that. They've played some close games. They've won 6 of their last 7. They've got coming up the Heat, who are not the Wizards, the Pistons, and the Hawks. So there's a world where we're going to wake up in a week and a half, and this is going to be a team that is 2 or 3 games over 500. And I'm not sure that it convinces me against really good teams that they're going to be right. I'm not sure. I am not suddenly I'm not you at the Clippers, right? I have not been I have not been converted to the idea that Doc Rivers is one of the 3 best coaches in the NBA. But you know what? You have Giannis Antetokounmpo. He drops 50-point games. If he and Lillard can kind of figure it out when Middleton comes back, I'm not sure how much that matters. I think he's kind of past his prime. But maybe there's a world, especially in the Eastern Conference, where everybody is dog bleep except for 2 teams. Maybe they can sort of turn around the ugliness and get to a pretty good place. It's on my radar, and credit to Milwaukee. You can only play the games that are in front of you, and they've won most of those games, and it's been critical.
Well, you called this. This is a soft spot of their schedule, and they had to beat these teams that were in front of them, and they are right now, and they're 8-9. And as I mentioned, 7 of their last 10 they've won. And Bill, as we sit here, they're in the playoffs proper. They're the 6th seed. Now it is the Eastern Conference, which is really bad. It's been not good. But look, like if you just keep like stacking W's here, if you're the Bucks and like right the ship a little bit in a bad Eastern Conference where, outside of the Knicks have been hit or miss for me. The Orlando Magic without Paolo Banchero, and they're on my list, and we can talk about them a little bit later. Franz Wagner has really stepped forward, but you got the Cavs and the Celtics. Those are really good teams. Outside of those 2 teams, who knows what the Bucks could be? So yeah, that makes sense. Surprising to me that they managed to pull this off. Let me do the Magic while we're on the topic of the Eastern Conference. 11-7, Bill. They're 3 games back of the Celtics for second place. They got a big win over the Pistons on Saturday. They had a win over the Lakers in LA last Thursday in a 1-point win where Franz Wagner hit the game winner. I think like with Paolo Banchero out Wagner's really stepped forward, and it's like, oh, I'm not just like the sidekick right now. I'm a guy who can be the main option. And is he an all-star this year? He might be an all-star this year.
I think so far he is. Yeah. And they're still they're hard to watch me, but they play so hard. They're hard to watch, man. Like, I respect them. Like, and you've done a good job in the time we've been working together, sort of calling teams and seeing trajectories, and you've been on this Orlando thing, and I'm here for it. But they are really good defensively. They're just
really not offensively.
Score some points, guy. I mean, just it's okay. You're allowed to score. It's a good little bucket, circular thing. Put the ball in it. You get points.
They're 25th in offenses. Producer Aaron points out, which is not good. I would expect that to improve, obviously, when Paolo Banchero returns. But the Wagner thing for me, just the way that he stepped forward in that Lakers game, where it was like, it looked like a Lakers win. They had all this momentum. There was games earlier this year where, the Sixers lost to them, and I was like, man, without Paolo Banchero, that's a terrible loss for the Sixers. It turns out that's not. I mean, the Magic, as you said, they play at the defensive end. They're kind of Wolves from last year, light, not as good nearly offensively, but Wagner stepping forward and hitting that game-winning three, and I was like, and it was from deep, and he had so much confidence.
Yeah.
Still, he's averaging just under 26 points per game, about 6.5 rebounds and 6.5 assists per game, and then 2 combined steals and blocks, so 2 stocks. He's been a really good defender. Like, I was down on him earlier in his career. I thought last year I wanted to see his 3-point efficiency improve. I wasn't sold on him as a defender. All of that has been resolved, and I don't know if it took Paolo Banchero going out for him to be like, oh,
I think it helps.
Be the guy now.
I think there's a history of this, and I'm going to do a comp because it's the most recent. I'm not saying that Wagner is Anthony Edwards, but Edwards is the most recent example, because if you remember last year, Edwards was great, but Cat went down for a while. Remember this? And Ant kind of had to, was it 10 or 15 for a pretty good stretch, had to be the guy and carry the offense. And they just won and won and won. And it's not like Anthony Edwards wasn't really good before that, but it really, I think, infused him with or reinforced that swagger and that confidence. And we saw it carry over the playoffs. And there's other examples with duos you go back where you have sort of a 1A and a 1B where stars go out for a minute, and then the secondary guy has this chance to shine for a small sample size. And if you can do it, when the star comes back, then they've got 2 guys, right? You elevate a little bit because you get to be the man for a minute, and it gives you some confidence. And I'm with you. I think what Wagner's done, I think it is 100% this opportunity to grow. And when his Batman comes back, he may not be a Robin. Like, they may just have 2 guys who are on the upswing together.
Yeah.
Double Batman. Did you say Batman?
Yeah, Batman. Yeah. Also, Jalen Suggs has we did taking a leap conversation earlier this season, and I just think, like, offensively he's really stepped forward too, and he remains just a defensive dervish. He's been fantastic. But you're right, they are a tough watch. They remain a tough watch offensively. Aaron loves to point this out.
He loves this stat.
They're like, for like 13 straight years they've been a bottom 10 defense. The last time they've had a top
offense,
20,
right?
Or offense, sorry, bottom 10 offense. Last time that they've had a top 20 offense was 2011-12.
How is that is it a secret contract thing where it says if you are in the top 20 you will lose your bonus?
They were really, really bad for a long time, and now, like, in these last few years after they got Franz and Paolo, they're starting to learn how to win again. But yes, they're still offensively challenged, and, like, look, everybody knew it, right? What were you going to need in the offseason was like some guard help, and they went and got KCP, who's off to like a pretty slow start. And, Jalen Suggs can only do so much. Like, yes, he's taken a step forward offensively, but he's not, by any means, like, I wouldn't call him offensively dynamic. He's been useful, which has been helpful. But anyway, they're on my radar. All right, we're going to take another break. And then on the other side, we'll continue Weekend Radar, including, I got a 2-parter for you that involves the Nuggets and the Lakers. I got a lot of problems. I'm going to bring those up on the other side. This is Beyond the Arc.
If you love football, this is the best time of the year.
This is as big as it gets. The stuff of absolute dreams.
All right, welcome back to Beyond the Arc. Join us on YouTube. We go live on YouTube Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. You can find us at Beyond the Arc CBS. Hit the like button, leave a comment, subscribe. We got a little bell symbol. If you click on that, it'll notify you when we go live. Sometimes we do it after games. A lot of fun stuff on YouTube. All right, Bill, Weekend Radar continues. Give me another one.
All right, so I had a 2-parter, but I let it ride, and we don't need to belabor this very long. But Are the Portland? We talked about Fred VanVleet earlier. Are the Portland Trailblazers not horrible? 7-10.
Not horrible.
Yeah, and they play.
What are
teams
they doing?
Tough. I don't know.
They should be horrible.
I might. By the way, we have an apology segment. I have to double up on this because I think I basically said Joe Cronin who's a super sweet guy. Well, I think was incompetent the word? Maybe. I don't know. I'll have to revisit that. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the NBA this year. I thought they were going to be the worst team in the NBA this year. And I know they have some young guys. It just felt like it hadn't worked. They look good. What are they, 7-10? That they'd be the 3 seed in the East or something? I mean, if they were in the Eastern Conference, they'd
luckily for them, they're not in the Eastern Conference because I'm looking at it.
Yeah.
They're still two, despite the fact that they've been not awful every night. They're 7-10, which puts them 2 games out of the play-in. So that's, they're not going to be the worst team in the NBA, but the Western Conference will save them here. Yeah, they've got a lot of useful pieces. Donovan Clingan should be playing. The problem is, how do you get off of DeAndre Ayton? I don't know that you can. I don't know that there's a market there for it. Robert Williams,
you need just fake the snow and have him not show up. Just like do a snow machine in his front yard. Yeah.
I mean, Robert Williams is a guy who, like, if healthy, could be super, super, super useful for them. But I'm with you that, like, they had 2 wins over the Wolves earlier this season in one of those baseball series where at first, if you're the Wolves, you have to win at least one of those games.
You got to win both those games.
Double
you really
loss
do.
for them.
It is a bad look.
Yeah, you really do. But for the Trailblazers, you're like, okay, we're showing some fight. Do we really want to, though? Do we want
to? But then like finish it like
it's
maybe
not the Spurs situation.
It's nice to see like Shaedon Sharpe and some other. It's nice to see some of these guys playing well. But you're right. Like, it's great job, guys. Can you start losing by 4 every night? Can we just do? Yes. Can we do that?
Let's get into some games, and then at the end of the games, let's not be in it anymore. But yes, they've had a nice little start to their season. All right, I mentioned the 2-parter here for you. The Nuggets played the Lakers, and Bill, once again, we'll start with the Nuggets. They just absolutely own the Lakers. They have won 13 of 14 against the Lakers, and I thought this year, with the way the Lakers have been playing, that game was going to be competitive. I watched that whole thing. It was not competitive, and part of it is the Joker component. We were talking about coming into the season. It's going to be somebody else's MVP. It's his MVP. Bill, he's averaging a triple-double. He's averaging, after all these MVPs, Bill, he's averaging career highs in points per game, just over 30, rebounds per game, about 14, and assists per game, about 11. Career highs. This guy has figured out a way to be better than he already was after winning 3 of 4 MVPs. He's going to go 4 for 5, I think.
Yeah, I mean, just watching him, it's such a, and he's been back for 2 games now. I mean, he's just, because he had that weird sort of.
He had a kid, apparently. We were all very worried, and he had a child.
Right. But just like, why not just say that? It's a weird thing to just, why not just, okay, so people do their personal lives. Yeah.
Mazel tov, by the way, on the child.
Mazel tov is right. But you're right, to see him go to another level. And I think some of it is maybe knows or feels like he has to carry this team. And the fact that he just has this other gear where he's like, okay, in the regular season, I guess I have to be like 1.2 versions of one of the best players of all time. I got to be like 20% better than I've been the last few years when I've won multiple MVPs. He's so, I don't want to cannibalize your Lakers thing. I'm going to let you go, but like, he's so good. And oh man, the Lakers.
Oh man, the Lakers, this is my Lakers thing. And I want you to explain this to me. So the Lakers looked really good. The Lakers had Dalton Knecht in the starting lineup. He's in the 4 games he started before that Nuggets game. He was averaging just under 24 points per game, just under 5 rebounds per game. He was shooting 60% from the field, Bill. He was hitting just about 5 threes per game on around 8 attempts. He looked amazing. You and I are like, it's him and McCain for the Rookie of the Year. Rui Hachimura comes back, and instead of taking Rui and putting him on the bench, or my preferred option, leaving Rui in the starting lineup and moving Cam Reddish to the bench, JJ unplugged Dalton Knecht from the starting lineup. Explain this to me. I do not understand it at all.
I have no answer, and I'm in New York. I wish I were in LA, and I wish I were around the Lakers so I could ask JJ, and just because he wouldn't answer, he just growl. He just. I have a JJ story for later, by the way. Maybe we'll do it tomorrow. It's a short one, but I don't know. So look, I think Redick deserves the benefit. I think that Redick has proven himself to be very capable early on it is not.
I'm like,
it's inexplicable, and also it's not easy to start your NBA coaching career. Period. Full stop. I don't think people realize how difficult it is to coach LeBron James, even if you're his podcast partner. Even though it always results in what is near term or midterm success. but a lot of guys don't last, and it's really hard. And you are going to take the brunt of the blame, and it's not an easy thing to do. And I think he's done a commendable job. I don't know, man. Like, it's just like trying to be like outthinking yourself. And we don't know enough about JJ to know, is he one of these guys that leans into veterans and rookies have to? I have no answer. The rookie has to prove it garbage, which as if he hadn't in the stretch that got us to the question that you asked. It's very strange. I don't know.
Yeah, it is. It has a real galaxy brain component to it. I don't mind putting Rui back in the starting lineup because he's a lot of size, and that makes sense. Cam Reddish, in the 20 minutes that he played in that game, scored 6 points and was like completely invisible to my eye. I watched that whole thing and I kept waiting for them to figure out a way to climb back into the game. I don't understand why Cam Reddish was the patch for when you needed somebody to go into the starting lineup. And then all of a sudden you stumble onto this Dalton Knecht thing. And I'm like, why don't you want to ride the hot hand? Maybe it is like he's a rookie and we'll figure it out. Or maybe JJ thinks like we need more offense off the bench along with D'Lo, because now D'Lo is a permanent bench member. I don't know what it is.
Look, I don't know the answer. And I don't know JJ's thought process, but whatever your equation and whatever your sort of process, your paradigm to figure out the answer, if your conclusion is Knecht should sit, then you're doing it wrong. I mean, sometimes the answer is already there. You don't have to outthink yourself. So whatever JJ's thought
minutes, but
there's a reward sort of momentum thing too, right? Like the dude obviously was feeling the opportunity he created for himself. It's just like you ride the hot shooter in a game. You can do that over the course of a game. I don't know. It doesn't. And this is not I think JJ's really, really good, but JJ, people will tell you, and I don't know him like you do, but people that know him will tell you, really smart. He's just going to have to sometimes get out of his own way, right? He's going to have to try to not out, sometimes it's chess, but sometimes it's checkers, right?
I do think he's really smart, but this is the first time I was like, I don't understand. And I would love to ask him and be like, explain this to me. Real quick before we move on from Nuggets and Lakers, just because I think it's an interesting question. Right now, as we sit here, they're pretty much stacked right near each other. The Nuggets are in 6, the Lakers are in 4. The Nuggets are a half game behind the Lakers. Going forward the rest of the year, who would you rather have, Lakers or Nugs?
I mean, the Nuggets. I still think, because of Joker. Yeah. And I still think that the Lakers are going to fade. If you tell me that the Warriors are going to be a top 6 team and they're going to surprise the pundits and surpass the expectations you and I had for them, totally here for it. I still think the Lakers are playing team at best. And I could be wrong. And it's so early and so many Western Conference teams have underperformed. And the Wolves are the main one I'm thinking of, where like I just think there's going to be a correction to the mean for LA. I could totally be wrong. But I think Denver's going to be a top 3 team, and I think the Lakers are not going to be a top 6 team.
The point differential would suggest that you're correct on this one, because of the
I haven't looked at that.
Of the top 6 teams in the Western Conference, all of them have a plus point differential, except the Lakers, who are half point underwater. And then meanwhile, the Memphis Grizzlies, who I keep saying, like, the point differential would suggest that they're due for a boost here. They're plus 6.7. And by the way, Ja could come back tonight. He's questionable for this evening, so keep an eye on that one. All right, give me another one.
That's another team that if Ja's healthy could. Okay, Sixers won a game. Was that Friday? It feels like 20 years ago.
No, dude, they got murdered yesterday, though.
Hold on. So I'm readjusting. I told you that they were going to go 2-80. 3-79, baby. We're going 3-79. And Paul George is getting reevaluated today or tomorrow. Is sort of what I'm hearing. And so we got one. We got one, Johnny.
They're so bad. I know that you don't like predictive models.
So
this one.
Tell me, I like them.
It's kind of funny because like this is where I channeled you. I'm looking at the ESPN BPI, which is predictive of like what chance you have to make the playoffs. The Sixers, who are 3-13, still have a coin flip chance, a 50% chance of making the postseason. I'm like, what?
I mean, they're not that far out of the tens. I mean, the East is so bad.
Yeah,
the problem is
going to end up as like the 9 seed nobody wants to play. Yeah. Like, what are we doing here? Just because you mentioned that win that they had from the other night, I thought we were going to get through a show without talking about this stupid team. But since you brought them up, I'll mention this to you. Jared McCain, last night he only scored 18 points, which snapped a 7-game streak of 20 points or better. And in that win over the Nets. I wanted to see what you thought about this. He was going down the court and he got caught on camera telling the Nets, "I'm the rookie of the year," like really feeling himself. And he talked about it afterwards, and he was sitting, yeah, you're grimacing. So he did the post-game press conference with Tyrese Maxey, and I guess Maxey didn't know about it. And a reporter goes, "Hey, you were running down the court and you were yelling, 'I'm the rookie of the year.'" And Maxey wasn't paying attention and then like was sipping on something. It was like that Kermit meme, and he just like looked up like, "What did you say?" So what did you think? Because Maxey and everybody else was blown away by it.
So here's the thing. I was actually going to ask you today. I think you've answered it. Have we seen enough to like this is who this kid is for his career?
I think he's real.
I think he's real too. And so if part of I don't care what people say or do if they can back it up, right? If you can back up, if that's part of your energy, I mean, you're talking to the Nets. So, I mean, maybe a little different if you ever say it to the Celtics, but no, I'm here for it. I don't mind it. I kind of like, I like the confidence and I like the swagger.
I will mention when I say real, I think he's real offensively. There's going to be, as we start to look at this kid and like really interrogate how good he is, like especially if he stays in the rookie of the year conversation, he's an offensive dynamo. He's awesome on the break. He runs to the 3-point line. He's a really good shooter. There's already some grumblings about, does he pass enough? Like in the last 2 games, he only had a combined 6 passes to, and I'm not saying assists. I'm saying a combined 6 passes to Max, who's his backcourt teammate. And then the question becomes, is that backcourt too undersized to play defensively? So we'll see what happens there. Breaking news from Chris Haynes, by the way, reporting that DeJounte Murray could be returning or is returning Wednesday against the Raptors. So Pelicans just so injury bitten, but I mean, it's nice to see them get DeJounte Murray back.
It is. It feels like it's too bad the Pelicans, I thought, could have been really, really good this year if every single player and every G League player and all of their cousins who play or brothers or former high school teammates weren't injured. It's just like it's a plague, but it's nice he's back.
And no timetable for Zion with those hamstrings that never work for him. Like while we're on this, I didn't even have the Pelicans on my radar for any number of reasons, but since we're talking about DeJounte, why not? What do they do about Zion? Like, I mean, like, what do you,
this is so easy to say now. This is so easy to say, right? Hindsight. But I was on the trade him when there was value. He can't.
Now, can you even? What market would there even be?
There isn't. I mean, I guess it only takes one. But I mean, also, can I just, not that we planned for going after Zion, but it was only a couple years ago. If you remember, Zion very publicly threw people, but there was all this credible reporting that he didn't like David Griffin, the GM, and sort of, I mean, he went after his own GM who ended up giving the extension. So there's a stay healthy issue. And there's also just there's a legitimate, I think, sort of leadership culture issue with I don't know what you do. You're also New Orleans, and I love that city, but you're not you see generational talents like Chris Paul and Anthony Davis leave. So you think you just have to hope. And I think you are stuck hoping that the guy eventually is healthy and you're in on him and you hope you get lucky at this point. Cause I think the odds are it's not going to work out.
That is not
so that too harsh.
No, I don't think it is. I think that's exactly right. I mean, if you're screwed either way, right? I don't think that there's a market for him. It does only take one, but if I'm any other NBA team, I look at it and go, well, he can't stay healthy. He hasn't expanded his game. The hamstrings are a serious issue. He makes a lot of money. What kind of commitment are we making to him relative to the return on your investment? I've been out on him for a while, and this is just another reason why. And it's a shame because when he's out there, we saw in the playoffs last year before he got injured again, like he was really carrying the Pelicans, and then he went down. You're like,
when he plays, they're almost always a top 6 team. And there was 2 or 3 years ago, they were the 1 seed going into January and they get hurt, right? I mean, like they are.
Sure.
He is talented, but he's just not reliable. All right, here's my last one.
Give me.
And we already kind of hit this a little, but you thought we had to do a top 100. We had to do a prediction, all of us at CBSSports.com, and you and I had individual lists we put in with everyone else for where guys would fit at the end of this NBA season. What would be the top 100, basically? So if you put whoever, Joker won, he's won on September 29th or whenever we turned it in. It's my wife's birthday. I don't know why it says September 29th.
Happy birthday.
It's the end of the year, April 15th or whatever. You had Wemby
belated birthday.
Happy belated birthday, Lori. We love you. Or I love you. You better not love her. That was weird. I got weird. I'm in New York. I got New York energy. You had him 4th, right? I had him 7. I know I had him 7. Did you have him 4?
I think so, right around there.
On my radar, I think we're going to be in the ballpark. I think he's a top 10 player this year. And John was 3.
Yeah,
I mean, especially if and we already talked this talk, but if the Spurs make the playoffs, even in the play-in, he's not going to be the MVP, but 4 or 5 at this rate. Like, you vote for him in that. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibilities.
I don't either.
That he gets some MVP votes. And so credit to you and me for having the guts to go 3 for you and 7 for me.
You were even more bullish though on the Spurs and like his impact on the Spurs. I was just saying, like, I think that, you know, and I said this about Chet too, that they're going to get all NBA votes this season. Forget about it, you know, All-Star. These guys are taking the lead big time this season. All right, last one for you, just because this like kind of blew my mind. So the Athletics, James Edwards wrote about this, and James, amazing that you noticed what was hiding in plain sight, because I could not believe this. Did you know that Thibs has never been ejected?
I saw this. I mean, oh my God, I meant to put it on my, it blew my mind.
Possible. So 13 full seasons, more than 930 games, and Thibs, who yells himself hoarse every game and is a madman, has never been ejected. We could do a little trivia on the other 2 guys since 1995 who have never done it. But Bill, like in the story, everybody was like, yeah, Thibs, like, you know, he's histrionic and hyperbolic, but all the refs love him because he's just like, oh, you know, you're growing how are your flower beds? You know, he's just like a nice guy to the refs.
Yeah.
And respectful, but I didn't know that. How is that possible?
So I will say this. I don't know him really well, but when I was covering the Heat for a couple of years way back in the day, that's when the Bulls were the team to beat. And so I spent a lot of time around him, and he is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
And he's a nice guy coming off losses. He's a nice, and his locker room in Chicago is the one that I've been around the most. Right. Courteous, professional. Mm-hmm. I can remember having a TV kit where I was supposed to get Derrick Rose. I grab him and we missed him because the camera guy didn't show up on time. We went to the wrong locker room. And we went into that locker room, and it was just everyone was gone. Derrick Rose was walking out in his suit or his like outfit, and I was like, "Oh, we're screwed." And Derrick Rose goes, "What's going on?" I'm like, "Oh, nothing, man. I just want to get an interview, but I know you're leaving." He's like, "I'll do it." And it was like and I talked to the PR guy. It was a Thibs thing, right? Like it just like that just reflected he's such a classy guy, and he doesn't get the credit he deserves because his face is always as red as mine just was. Yeah. Coughing a second ago, I was choking on something. He's just because his anger when he's coaching. But he's such a reasonably nice dude that it's such a difference from what you would imagine.
Like, even you're right, because like you talk to him and he's super professional and he's easy guy to talk to and he's very smart and he's accommodating. But I would have thought just like through the course of doing business, like you just get run on a random game in March where you're just like, I'm gonna go sit in the back for a minute, you know, like just once. Right. How's that even possible?
Lose your temper one time with a guy.
One time. So there's only 2 other coaches since 1995 with a minimum of 10 seasons who have never been run. One of them is, do you know who these are?
You tell the girl.
You know the answers. All right. So one of them is Jeff Van Gundy, who has just recently returned to the NBA and is now on the bench for the Clippers, my Western Conference team. And the other one is Chicago Bulls head coach Billy Donovan.
Which is also a surprise because he's got kind of an intense energy about him. A little bit, right?
He does. And also, if you had watched that much Chicago Bulls basketball, I would just really want to get tossed. Like, let me go off and get a pizza or something.
Let me take it all out on somebody who's not responsible.
I got to get out of here. All right, let's us get out of here with team of the night, and then we'll wrap it up.
All right, for me, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. They lost that game to Boston, and we kind of all forgot about their amazing shine. They're 17-1. I mean, this team has won 17 of 18 basketball games, and they picked up right where they left off. So just a little shout out to that team for currently being, regardless of what happened in that showdown in the Cup game last week, best team in the NBA right now.
They've been so good.
5 record.
And fun to watch. Like definitely real. Like and that game that they lost, as we said, you know, to the extent that you can have a good loss against the defending champions on their floor, they did. That was a game that they didn't quit. They came back. They're down 26. They cut it to 2 5 different times. It was amazing. This one for me, that ties the Cavs and the Bucks for most on our team of the night.
I still want sarcasm deducted as -2 though.
Well, here comes a -2
to the judges.
Because the Timberwolves, when we do team of the night, it's not always a positive. It just means we're paying attention to this team. And I'm paying attention to the Timberwolves because they're 8-8. They just lost at Toronto. They haven't won there, Bill. The Minnesota Timberwolves have not won in Toronto since January of 2004. Yeah. Okay. Then they go.
That's great stuff.
Yeah. And then they played in their other place that they can't win. They lost at Boston. Now that game was better. They have not won in Boston since March of 2005. That for some reason,
that one makes a little more sense, but
sure,
still
but
crazy.
the Toronto one is weird. So they're 8-8. As I mentioned, they're on the outside of the play-in looking in. They're behind the Spurs, the ascendant Spurs. The reason why I'm bringing this up is they reconfigured their team last year, right? Like last year, they were number one with a bullet in defense. This year, middle of the pack. Why did they do that? They decided that they had to get better on offense. They bring in Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. Dante has not been shooting the ball well, but I wanted to flag this thing that happened in Toronto on Friday. It's 95-95. They're trying to get a win in Toronto for the first time again since 2004. Yeah. Rudy Gobert is deep in the paint, sealed on Scotty Barnes. And Julius Randle is doing his dribble the air out of the ball thing, right? And Rudy is calling for the ball, and Julius isn't paying attention to him at all. So Rudy starts pouting and decides, I'm not going to get out of the paint. Gets a 3-second violation basically on purpose, goes to the other end of the floor, gets a foul on a bad foul call, a frustration foul call, wheels come off of the thing, and they lose to the Raptors on the road. Afterwards, it was so bad. The body language was so bad. They got asked about it, both of those guys. And Rudy was like, I shouldn't have done it. I tried to be a good teammate. Julius was like, tried to make it like a joke of it and be like, what do you want? I didn't throw him the ball. I should have thrown him the ball. To the extent that on the next game in Boston, Chris Finch opens it up with a play where he calls for Julius Randle to throw the ball into the paint to Rudy Gobert to be like, it's all good. What is going on with the Wolves?
And let me add to that very perfect summation. Anthony Edwards lost his mind when that happened.
He was angry.
Because he's like, guys, we're trying to win a basketball game here. No effort, didn't come out. I John Gonzalez that thing. See what I did? I swallowed
it. You pushed it back and you got to swallow it.
Yeah.
Look, you know how
it's a bad fit.
You know how high I was on the Wolves.
And DiVincenzo doesn't. Yeah, and Dante DiVincenzo doesn't work there. I like him, but he doesn't look happy, man.
He doesn't look happy. I still believe, like the whole soccer thing, like that form is temporary, class is permanent. He's not shooting the ball right now very well. I do believe that the shot will fall for him. He's getting shots. I just keep waiting for them to fall. We are now a month into the season, so it's not a small sample size, right? Like at some point, Dante has to be the guy they traded for.
And Julius Randle has to not be the guy they traded for. I mean, it's
8-8 is not where you want to be, man.
Are we willing to say that Randle doesn't work? Because it's a little early at 16, 17 games. I am. I'm willing to say Julius Randle does not work in Minnesota. I'm here for it.
If you could undo it, if you're the Wolves, I think you definitely would. And if you're
it's
the
a money
Knicks,
thing, though, right? Oh yeah, you're right.
I mean, the Knicks offense is awesome, but and they're climbing in the Eastern Conference. I think the Knicks would probably say that they're going to let the experiment play out with Cat because he has been really good offensively. But man, if you're the Wolves, you don't do that thing in a heartbeat. It's a money thing. It's a money thing because they did get more financial flexibility, and Julius Randle, who knows what happens with him this offseason, but you didn't want to be stuck in cap hell locked into those guys. But the Wolves. All right, well, that's going to do it for us today. That was a fun show. We're gonna do it again tomorrow, Bill. We're gonna have Overreaction Tuesday tomorrow. You're in New York. You're gonna find maybe the same closet, maybe a better one, an upgraded closet.
I hope so. I'm gonna try. if I can get out of here, I'm not even sure I'm allowed to get out of this hostage closet.
You'll sleep over. Send for your family. All right, that's gonna do it for us for today. As I mentioned, we're back at it tomorrow. But for now, for our NBA insider Bill Ryder, I'm John Gonzalez. Thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you.